Well, hello friends. Hello everyone, my name is Bruce Rain from Braggers Creations and thank you for joining me today on what is here an absolutely beautiful autumnal Sunday. The weather is magnificent and my text is wrong. So, repairing a failed Mac SE 30 recap. Same subject, just different computer. Hello to Steve, hello to Sean, hello to Joe, hello to Jay, hello to Dana. Thank you very much for joining me. I do appreciate it. I am going to be today looking at a Macintosh SE 30 board, which I have here. Customer has sent this to me. They recapped it themselves and they are not having any success with it. It's not doing what they want it to do. So a couple of things. It looks to me like they haven't replaced the axial capacitors on the board, which is fine. That's not an essential thing anyway, but given that they're sending it to me, I will do that. 14,000 subs. Yes, I know. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? It's just gone crazy. I've got a whole bunch of leftover capacitors here on my bench from recapping a Macintosh Color Classic the other day. My apologies that didn't end up in a live stream, but I was just in a bit of a rush. But what I did find is these capacitors here, which are the 5600 10 volt, which are actually sort of lying down flat on the board with all this snot holding them in place. They had leaked really badly, and you can actually, if we just jump across quickly to the microscope there, and get a little bit of, look at that, look at that, look at that, how good's that? A bit of gunky yuckiness, and it was all over the board, and recapped, and it is now working beautifully, so it's always wonderful when that happens. So yeah, that's another Color Classic save. That was one that was completely dead. The logic board didn't work and the analog board didn't work either, and so I fixed them both up and now working very nicely. Always makes me feel happy. So anyhow, whenever I get a board that has just going to press the little thing here. Whenever I get a board, it's a bit bright, isn't it? Oh, it's all right though. We're okay. We're okay, aren't we? Yeah, we're okay. Whenever I get a board that's been sent to me that has already been recapped, without question, one of the first things I do is take all the caps off. And I know that seems terribly counterproductive. You know, oh, I've already recapped it. What a waste of time and everything. But the fact is that the most common culprit with these things is that something has gone wrong during the recapping, myself included. If I recap something and it doesn't work, one of the first things I'm doing is checking my own recapping work. And as I didn't do these, I haven't seen them get done, I do need to check them, and I'll obviously inspect the board as well. I think probably the first thing we should do, just to be thorough and sensible, I will test it, just see how it goes now. I'm going to just give you the eloquent words of my customer who sent it to me. And he said... Excuse me one moment while I log into my job tracking system. So let me just have a look here. We've got 19 viewers apparently, what it says. So please folks, do jump on and say hello if you haven't said hello. If you're a first time viewer, please say hello. I'm always happy to hear from folks. If you're someone who is watching this after watching any of my soldering videos, in this I do generally demonstrate quite a few of my soldering techniques. So, you know, I can, if you're wanting to ask questions about anything, always do so. Zodium, hello, thank you for joining. Already enjoying it quite a bit. Oh, well, that's good. I'm going to try and be more entertaining in the coming moments. At the moment, I do realise it's a little bit on the dull side. But it'll get better. Trust me. Trust me. Wow. I think really, I can't guarantee it, but I'll try. Let's get the case out. Macintosh SE 30. I'm probably going to change over to this front view. It's not the best view. The view that is best for this is the camera over there. But unfortunately, there are a couple of problems. First of all, the capture device that I use for that camera is now being used for the camera that's above me, and I find that up view probably a better view on the whole. And the camera over there, well, the fact is I have 1, 2, 3 cameras coming into the system here. Generally, when I start running with 4 cameras, everything falls apart. My computer gets upset, OBS gets upset, everyone's upset. So, you know. Atmostorm Fur. Hello there, thank you for joining. I won't watch the live stream because it's 3:40 AM here in France, so I'm just here to say hi and good luck with the recap. Thank you very much. And I do apologise for folks in Europe because I generally don't stream in the future. Try and a couple of streams in during that time, but from my perspective, the most convenient time is usually to live stream around about now, a little bit before lunch, late morning before lunch. And I know that that's just not a particularly friendly time for some parts of the world. So, to be fair, OBS is easy to upset with cameras and capture devices, at least in my experience. Yes, and especially when you're using an older version like I am, because I'm running an old computer with, I think, El Capitan I'm running. Let me just have a look. And so I'm not even running the latest version of OBS. So, yeah, to be honest, I had it coming. But there is a very good chance that I will have a different computer down here doing my live stream soon, if all goes well. Fingers crossed. And then I might see the end of all of the problems that I have. So let's get this tested to start off with. Shout out to Steve from Mac84, who, well, quite frankly, has been doing nothing but Macintosh SE30 repair live streams lately. Who has a Macintosh SE30 at the moment that is giving him some grief. It sort of works. You know the old sort of works thing? That's the that's where he is with that one. We love sort of works. I've got another sort of works up there at the moment too, which I'm going to be fixing. It's a Macintosh SE that I've got that sort of works. But one of the really fantastic things that's happening at the moment, in particular with these SE30 and SE recreations, and there's apparently a Macintosh Classic recreation on the way as well. When these reverse engineered boards get made, they get built in modern, board creation software. And a lot of these projects are being made public, GPL license, which means that all the stuff that's used in the creation of these becomes public. And what's fantastic about that is once you have the schematics and the board views, the boards into this modern software, you can use them to check what's supposed to be going where. And a big shout out to Kai Robinson. I'll be talking a little bit about him later on, who sent me his board design view file for the Macintosh SE, which enables me to go in and click on a pin and find exactly where that pin goes elsewhere on the board. And of course, from a diagnostics point of view, that makes life so much easier. If you want to go in and check that you haven't got any damage traces, you can literally just click on a point on the board and see where it's supposed to go to. And then you just put your multimeter on there and check those other points. And if you don't have any continuity, it's broken somewhere, you can create a little trace repair. So this is something that's really fantastic. I think it's going to make repairs for things like Macintosh SEs and SE30s a lot easier. And as it appears, it looks like the Classic is going to be another one coming soon too. So now, where are we? Let's just have a quick look here. Right, all good. Please help. So anyhow, let's whip out the board. This is my Macintosh SE30. It actually has a SCSI to SD inside, which you might be able to just see there. It's that green flat board. It's a SCSI to SD version 4.2 that I assembled, hand assembled lovingly by Bruce. In order for me to pull this SE SE30 apart, I've got a network card in here which I have to whip out because the board won't come out while the network card is plugged in. This is the card here. And what's nice about this card is this one works in a Macintosh 2 SI as well as a Macintosh SE30. So, there you go. And I'm very happy to have it because I love being able to get this thing connected to an Ethernet network and download things via FTP and stuff like that. No, I have no desire to get it onto the web. So, not like some people out there, desperate to get things on the web. Not mentioning any names, Sean. It is fantastic though, I tell you, that what Sean from Action Retro has done with his SE30 and including the 040 upgrade and then get that thing, you know, onto the internet using, of course, his FrogFind tool, which makes the web retro. Fantastic stuff. So anyhow, do the re-engineered boards still have multi-layer traces? Yes, they do, but in the instance of, I'm pretty sure, definitely the SE, most probably the Classic, and I don't know about the SE30, but I would assume, I can't be certain, but I assume, the inner layers on these boards are simply solid ground planes. So it actually makes the design of the inner layers way easier. So just, yeah. Yeah, as I say, in the instance of the Mac SE, the two inner layers are just great big ground planes. Yes. All right. So, look. It just while I've got it here. Here is a redesigned SE board with no components on it. How awesome is that? A couple of very small changes have been made to it, just for the sake of, you know, improving it. But on the whole, this is just an exact replica of a Macintosh SE board. Isn't that sexy? So yeah. So Sean sent that to me. Sorry, not Sean. Sorry, Kai Robinson sent that to me. I'll be putting some links in some of my live streams about where to go to get information about this project, because this is just fantastic. Fantastic stuff. I mean, wowzers. You know, really good. It makes me want to just grab my own SE and just pull all the components off it and stick it on this, because this board's way sexier. Alright, this is my SE30 board, which works. I know it works because it's got a little piece of, like, sort of gluey stuff here. It's actually plastic. It's a, you know, it's that plastic that you heat up and you melt. It becomes malleable when it's hot, and then you can shape it, and then it goes hard, and that's holding this ROM sim in place because the clip's damaged. But I will be 3D printing something to actually fix that up in the future. I just haven't done it yet. This is a fairly well spec'd out SE30. It has 4 16 meg sims in it and 4 4s, so there's a fair bit of RAM in this one for doing, well, I don't know what. I've replaced the battery holder with a CR2032 3-volt lithium battery there, just cause. And this was the very first board I ever recapped, and I did a shocking job of it, but I've since gone back and fixed it up. But you've got to start somewhere, don't you, folks? Okay, so this is the customer's board, which has been recapped and is troublesome. And yes, like, obviously, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Kai soon, but you know, he isn't just recreating these boards, he's recreating things like memory. Oh, wow. That wouldn't help. I wonder if that was stuck. I just found this little loop of metal. It's a little round piece of aluminium. It looks like the top of a... it looks like a piece, an old capacitor that's been removed with clippers. Which means it basically rules out it being my piece of metal. It means it was a piece of metal that came with this board. But it was stuck on the back, stuck to the CPU pins. Who knows? Let's get a close-up of that, people. Let's get a close-up of that, because if it is that, I'm going to just be shaming left, right, and centre. It's probably not, but I'm just going to... I'll just... Whoop, that's not the view. That's the view. So where are we? I'm doing this. Here we go. Here we go. I'm having trouble here because I'm working backwards. There we go. Yeah, nearly there. I'm getting a slight delay in this as well, which doesn't make it any easier. There we go. See that? That is a little bit of aluminium capacitor that has been snipped off. And it was tucked in, you know, pushed onto some of the pins of the CPU. So, well, it's taken off now. Who knows? But as I say, I know that's not one of my pieces of metal because I don't do that to my caps. Hello, Dave. Thank you for joining. So, yeah, that could be... It would be funny if that was it, if that was the only thing wrong with it. But, you know, I mean, well, funny for me, not necessarily for the customer, but, yeah. All right, come on. Oh, hang on. Did I plug the thing in? I don't think I plugged the thing in. When you're working with these SE30 boards, as opposed to the SE, with the SE, you want to unplug the umbilical cord thingy. You want to unplug it while the board's still in situ. But with the SE30, I find it easier to plug and unplug this cable before you put the board in. So it's not easy, especially when you have great big fat hands like I do. But it is doable. Okay. So he's plugged in. Then I'm going to, look, I probably shouldn't even bother connecting this up. I haven't connected up the speaker, which means I could have just hung the board out the side. And no, Steve, I haven't bought the extension yet. Why haven't I bought the extension yet? I feel so stupid. This ain't going in. Why ain't it going in? Oh, that's why. Whatever. What a fool. You're a fool, Bruce. A fool. Yeah. Yeah. Consonant. There we go. Much happier. So I haven't connected up the speaker, so we aren't going to be getting a chime. I would have connected up the speaker, but I've forgotten. I can't be bothered unplugging it now. I don't see any point connecting up hard drives or anything, because let's face it, what's the point? If we're just getting... the symptom it was getting was horizontal bars. Let's see if we can just bring this camera down a smidge, and we'll just see what we get. That is a metric smidge, not an imperial smidge. Okay, we ready? And we won't know because we didn't get I didn't plug in speaker, so we won't know if we get a chime. It'll just be a matter of whether we... Yeah, okay. We are getting horizontal lines, so we can't actually blame that little piece of aluminium for being the problem. So here's where we are. This is a fairly common problem on these. The few that you get are these horizontal lines. Sometimes you get a straight single horizontal line, and obviously the CMAC, which is the kind of mottled kind of weird sort of pattern, which I'm... Is that moving? Oh, anyhow, unplug it, whip it out, see what happens. So it is time for us to actually start doing some diagnostic work. Why haven't I bought the extension yet? I don't know why I haven't bought the extension yet. I think about it at the dumbest times. I don't think about it when I'm sitting in front of the computer at eBay or something like that. I'm going to do it now. I am going to do it now, right now. Buy an ATX extension cable. Longest one I can buy. 50 feet. You can stay there, but don't fall off. Thank you. Right, let's get this out of the way. Obviously, everyone, super careful with these if you're working with them. Very high voltages inside. There is the chance of, fatal electrocution and stuff. So, don't do as I do. Okay, let's buy an ATX extension cable. Bruce goes on a shopping spree. That's what I should call this live stream. eBay. ATX. Oops. I went to my local computer shop. They didn't have any. I was disappointed. I would have thought that a place that sells all of the stuff for making computers would have sold an ATX extension. But maybe I'm expecting too much. There's one. Where's it from? It's $9.30 in Australian currency. And it is it's in Australia, so look at that. I'll get that like in a matter of days. Isn't that delicious? Is it the right sort of cable? Yeah, it looks like the right sort of cable. Alright, I'm going to buy two just because they have a discount if I buy two, so of course I buy two. It's like I'm saving money. Buy it now. And confirm and pay. And done. It's done. I've ordered it. There will be no more said about it. It's happened. Actually happened. Right, 7.9 inches. That's what she said. Cool. Yeah, I didn't even look at the measurement of the size, but to be honest, anything's better than what I've got at the moment. I mean, even an extra 5 centimeters would make life easier. Right, so now we know it doesn't work. Brian Gorham, hello, welcome to the live stream. And Moazam, Raja, hello, and thank you. Right, okay, so it's done. Now we are going to move on to doing what I actually have kind of advertised I would be doing on this live stream, and that is looking at this SE30 board and trying to fix it. I have a system that I follow here because it's what I do. I need a system, otherwise things would get totally out of hand. I mean, I had a pickup of a computer yesterday, and then another pickup yesterday and a drop off. And then today I've had a drop off, and then I've got another pickup tonight. The stuff is still just pouring in, and I've got probably about 100 or so unanswered recapping requests that I need to get to. It's just like that at the moment. Yay! Right, this is job number 112. So I'm going to grab a little plastic baggie here. I'm going to write 112 on it in my neat, delicate writing. And I'm going to put these things in that the customer has included with the board. Because one of the things that I do here with anytime I do a repair, first of all, I take photos of the board. I record the serial number of the board, and then obviously give it a number, and then everything that is included with the board I write down, and then I take all of the stuff off. I put it in a little baggie associated with that job. Very important to do that to make sure that nothing gets mixed up with something else. I mean, if I decide to test a board using a different RAM or something like that, I want to make sure that I send it back with the right RAM, the RAM it came with, that sort of thing. Came with the battery, isn't that nice? No, the SE30 is not one of these computers where you need a battery to boot. It will boot quite happily without a battery. There are some computers that won't boot happily without a battery. Things like the LC475 and the Quadra 605. You'll get a chime, but you won't get any video unless there's a battery in there. Yep. And I think some of the laptops also need a battery. But anyhow, yeah, whip all these components off. I mean, I had an instance the other day where, I had a customer sort of not accuse me of anything or anything like that, but when I basically told them the situation with their board, it's sort of like, no, that's not right. I didn't do that, And it's like I showed them a photo that I took of it as soon as it arrived, and say this is how it arrived. So you can't really question it, especially if you take the photo while they're actually standing in front of you. Charles, hello, thank you for joining. Thomas Armstrong's here as well. Thomas, I must apologise. I have all your stuff all folded up in anti-static bags. I've just got to stick it in a box and send it to you. I mean, I really need to do that, because then I get paid. Okay. Right, okay. Yes, indeedy. Incidentally, this is, I believe, is going to be a fairly small and intimate audience. I didn't do much in the way of promoting this today, and that was mainly because I was extremely rushed in getting this set up. I just had rather a lot I was doing today. So let's now go to the microscope, and we'll have a nice blurry picture here. So let's get that in focus for the folks at home. God, I hate the way this thing does this, that the focus knobs keep coming undone. I have to tighten them up. I don't know why, but I've got to sort something out there. Now, I did clean this the other day, so if this picture doesn't look deliciously awesome and sharp, there's something wrong. And it doesn't, so there is something wrong. Right, let's start off where most of the trouble usually occurs with these, which is around, we all know these guys here. We've got our U8 chips, so they run along here in a line. You've got UA8, UB8, UC8, UD8, UE8, UF8 and UG8. People often talk about problems with UE8, which is a very common thing because it lives directly underneath what would have been a surface mount electrolytic capacitor. Oops, once upon a time. Got a little bit of, I think this person's had a go at cleaning this, that's why we've got a bit of stuff there. I mean, look at the crunchy stuff here. It doesn't look too crash hot, does it? I mean, look at those. Look at all those solder joints. They're really crunchy. And we'll probably have to do a little bit of continuity testing on some of those. We've got our little cluster of 4 caps here. You've got your 47 microfarad 16 volt here, and that's what is that? It's a 1 microfarad 50 volt there. We've got a nasty looking trace going here. And you see that this one here is a different colour to the rest of them, and that's because of the corrosion on it. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not carrying electricity, but it may not be carrying electricity. So we'll just need to check, and you can see it's sort of discoloured all the way along here. There's a discoloration on this one as well, so we're going to need to have a look at that. These are the sound chips for anyone who is watching sticks. Oh, cripes. Lorks a lordy. Look at that. Yeah. And of course this will need a proper ultrasonic clean as well when I finish. But hopefully what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to recap it. We'll check out some of these traces. We'll bend these pins back into shape. Yes, that's what we like to do. Oh, this is, look at the way this chips off center. Shoddy workmanship. How about it? We've got these 3 caps here. Now, as I say, this is not my recapping work. This is someone else's recapping work. I'm not going to diss it because, as I said, the very first recapping job I did was terrible. But one thing I can tell you is, I mean, just by the way these sort of caps are floating around, we've got too much solder here. I'm not particularly happy with the way these are sitting down, so I'm going to take those off and we'll put them on again. Assuming I can get these caps off without destroying them, I'm quite happy to keep using them because they are modern caps. I can just tell by looking at them. They're Chemits. Which are a good quality cap. Got some nasty discoloration here. We've got some melty here. Melty. Let's just focus up on that there for a minute. Now, one of the little tricks that I do, I'm going to be adding this to my soldering tips and tricks video, which will be coming up at some stage soon. When you do happen to accidentally melt something like this, I get a very sharp blade like this. I just take the lumpy bits off it. And it usually disguises that to a point where you barely even know it's ever been melted. It's one of the tricks I use because I never melt anything on anyone's board ever. There we go. That's good enough for me. And if it's good enough for me, it's good enough for me. Okay, so we've got a little bit of ugly, we've got a few ugly traces here, which I don't think are actually broken, but we still want to have a look at them. We've got another cap down here. Again, we've got some ugliness around there. Oh, look at that. Look it. Look it. Still making connection, which is good. I'm at a really awkward angle here, which is why I'm sort of having trouble scraping that. Got a nasty one here. The one problem, the one bit of information I didn't get about this was whether it was working before the recap. Because then we sort of not really sure. Here we've got some VRAM chips just there. You can see, aren't they pretty? I've got a whole stack of spares of those, which is nice. And here's a sound chip. So I have some spares, but not a whole lot, but I probably need to buy some more. Well, I think the first thing we need to do is get these caps off. We've had a good old look. Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll do the other thing. The thing that needs to always be done with these boards, if anyone's ever worked on any of these boards, you must look on the other side. Look on the reverse, not just the obverse. Because there are lots of things that can go wrong with these. I'm going to have to put my, I'll put my goggles on, and we'll just change views to the top view. And we'll move this microscope out of the way, because for this, I'm better off actually just using my naked eyes, rather than eyes with underpants on. So what I'm looking for when I'm inspecting the board like this, I'm looking for any components that might have been accidentally knocked off. And I will know that their components have been knocked off by the shape of the solder that's left behind, because there are instances where you have parts of the board that are deliberately left empty. But there's a very different look about when a component has never been there, as opposed to where a component has been and has been knocked off. So I always check out for that. Looking. Don't see anything. This all looks fairly good. I mean, not that we need anything extra to be giving us trouble with this board based on what I've seen on the other side. And then the other thing that I look out for, which is something that caught me out once before, there are all these little blobs here. All of the solder, all of the vias, when the vias are the little tube of copper that link between board layers, with those, on the SE30, all of the vias are filled with solder. Don't ask me why, I don't know. They don't work for Apple. And these are them here. So all of these little blobs here are vias filled with solder. All of them. Now sometimes when you're working on the other side of the board, if you're hitting it with a bit of heat, the solder can fall through to the other side and create like a large blob. I'll probably end up creating one while I'm working on this board today. If that blob gets large enough and it's right next to another blob, those two blobs can end up joining together and sometimes creating an accidental short. So just one to always be on the lookout for. Sam Johnson, hello. I don't think I said hello to you before, so that's why I'm saying hello to you now. Okay. Am I going to steal those capacitors? No, I probably won't. The big problem with these sorts of capacitors, these are the Kemet ones, these orange tantalum capacitors, is that when you hit them with hot air, they go brown. And so, you know, it's not a good look. I mean, they'll still work, but they just don't look too crash hot. So, I don't think it'll take much to get these old caps off, or these new caps off, because they're soldered on a little bit wonky. So I think I'll be able to get heat right under them nice and easily. I'm using a heat shield here, which I've got a little bit of Kapton tape that I'm wrapping around this plastic, which just gives an extra little bit of protection. And then I've got this bit of steel. It's a little bit of steel. It's one of those blades from those clicky knives, those box cutter type knives. And yeah, oh, God, something smells good. Someone's cooking onions and curry. Oh man, hungry. I suspect my hungriness might dictate the length of this live stream. Right, so let me just check here. Oh, good night. Thank you for joining, Zandamoran, Zandy. I hope I've said that correctly. I probably haven't, but I do try. All right, let's get some focus on the old picture here. Let's see if we can get these caps off without making them go brown. It's going brown. Okay. They're off. Those three are off. And let's compare the colour. A little bit browner. A little bit browner. I think we can still use them. At the end of the day, it'll save the guy a little bit of dough because I won't charge him for new caps, so I'm sure he won't mind them being a little bit on the brown side. Okay, we've got those ones off. Let's get these four off. I'm going to snip this. I'm going to snip this guy as well. So this is the axial cap. Goodbye. This is how I remove these. It's not the way everyone else removes them, but it's the way I remove them, and it works for me. I like it. It's nice. Right. See if we can get these caps off again without too much browning. Oh, this one's going brown real quick. Oh, look at him. Poor little brown guy. Hey Joe, thanks for joining. I'm working on an SE30 here at the moment. I'm just practicing, I'm keeping myself in form for when your board finally makes its way out to this part of the world. And I can have a go at it. Because, you know, we just need to make sure it's a nice big group effort. I have absolutely no confidence that I'll be able to do anything with it, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun having 3 people work on the same board, I think. Okay, let's get some more caps off. Ouch. Why do these things always get so hot? So this is one of the later versions of the Macintosh SE30 board. And you can see this capacitor here, which lives quite close to the battery. In the earlier version of this board, which is one of the ones that Steve was working on before, that capacitor is actually on the other side of the ROM chip. It sort of lives around about here somewhere. Yeah, I mean, that's just a little bit of information for you. I mean, it's not particularly valuable. I don't even know what you're going to do with that information, but it's there. It's there, it's out there. Okay, we're in a little nest of plastic here, so I'm going to try not to melt anything. Macintosh SE30 is one of these boards that I pretty much say without any sort of thought or consideration, I say needs to be recapped. There's a fair bit of a backlash, I think, in a lot of the enthusiast groups at the moment, that when someone asks, "Oh, I really made this one this colour, didn't I? Look at it, it's got a dark corner. Might have to replace that one. It might just be too ugly for my OCD." Yeah, so there's a fair bit of backlash when, you know, people say, "Oh, I've got a problem with this Mac," and someone just jumps on and says recap it without giving any real thought about whether the caps are the problem in the instances they've given. Hello, Trina. Hello, Retro Techie. But one of the exceptions there is the Macintosh SE. One of the many exceptions, I should say. Macintosh SE30, Macintosh Classic, Classic 2, LCs. These are the LC 1, 2, 3. These models we know suffer from capacitor leakage, like always, not sometimes or maybe always. So when someone hasn't recapped a board like that and they are having problems, my general attitude is it's pretty pointless trying to go down a diagnostic path when you know that those capacitors are going to be bad. So yes, it may have other problems, but the capacitors will be a problem. They should be replaced. If someone jumps onto a forum and says, "Hey, I've got a Mac Plus and it doesn't start," I don't say recap it. The answers I give about problems are based on the problems known with those boards. And with a Macintosh SE30, we know that that they have problems with leaky caps. I mean, look at this. The way this solder mask is coming off here. I mean, that's not, that's basically because we've got all sorts of leaky corrosion going on there. I'm going to scrape that out a little bit, clean it up. I'm going to get some new solder sitting on it there. Got a free Macintosh Classic today. Not only cap leakage, but battery exploded. Another one bites the dust, yes. Well, you'll be pleased to know, Retro Techie, but there is a project underway. I might put a link to it in the description afterwards, but there is a project on the way at the moment to create exact replica reproduction classic boards. So, like the Macintosh SE, like this one here that I have, which is a reproduction SE board, exactly the same. There is apparently a classic in the works at the moment as well. So you'll be able to just sit on what you've got there for the moment. I mean, the chassis is probably rusted to the bilio because that's what happens with them. But you can just sit on it for the moment, wait till these reproductions come out. then when they do, you can always just move the good components from the old board to the new board, and then just have to buy whatever components have been irreparably damaged, which is usually on the classic all those in that corner where the battery is. So that's you often end up getting quite a bit of damage to some components there, but yeah. All right, so just looking at this here, these traces are looking a little bit on the yucky side, but they're not too bad. They're not like some of the other ones. I'm pretty confident these are all still good. Let's get some flux on here and try and clean it up. Now, I do have a limited amount of time today to spend, so I cannot guarantee that I will get this one fixed today, but we will do our best. Classic 2 is in the works as well, which would just be awesome. I mean, yeah, the chassis is rusted out. It's not surprising. There's a Color Classic reproduction. Not that I'm aware of. One of the big problems with the Color Classic trying to reproduce those is I believe those connectors on the bottom, those slide-in connectors, are unprocurable. So, you know, with the Macintosh SE and SE30, most of the parts on there are still procurable. So, not all of them, but most of them. I think it's the ADB connectors are the ones that are really hard, but I could be wrong. Or is it the ADB chip? I don't know. There are certainly some parts on these things that are very, very hard to do. I think there are some people at the moment trying to reverse engineer and reproduce the ADB chip, which I think is just a huge undertaking, but bravo. But yeah, I mean the Color Classic, you know, I think could be reverse engineered, yeah, it's when it comes time to building it, if you can't get some of the parts, in particular that slide-in connector at the bottom, I don't know what the solution would be. I don't know how you'd get it working. Oh, anyone, face full of fumes. What did I forget? This is a fume extractor that I've got here. It was actually quite cheap. I think there are links to it in the description. And I have to say, it has been absolutely brilliant. Some fume extractors cost thousands of dollars. This one here was very modest. I picked it up from Amazon. And it really wasn't that expensive. It's got this bendy tube here. It's fantastic. I'm just going to go top view here so you can just see. This is it here. There's a little box with a filter underneath the desk. I have the hose poking up through the desk, so I drilled a hole in the desk. So I can just put this wherever I want. It's adjustable speed. It's a little bit on the noisy side, but aren't all fume extractors. And it is just wonderful. I have it in the works that I'm actually going to get the fumes from this, and rather than them going through a filter, I'm just going to pipe them straight outside, because, you know, because I'm in a shed here. A studio that looks like a shed. Okay, I'm going really bad on the chat today. I just haven't been looking at stuff. Yeah, you know, interesting. The whole idea of creating these recreation boards and then providing improvements to them. You know, as I was chatting to some guys yesterday, and I was saying, how good would it be if someone brought out an SE30, reproduction SE30 board, with Ethernet already there, and with VGA output? How good would that be? You know, I mean, that would just be just awesomeness. My client says the machine only worked with 68 megabyte installing the SE30, not 64. Ha ha! See, isn't that what I told you? And obviously, yes, Dana does stuff as said, put the 1 megabyte sims in bank B. Generally, with the SE30, the bigger sims should always go in bank A, smaller sims go in bank B. So you've got 2 banks of 4. Within those banks of 4, you must have the same size sims. But you can have different size sims in the different banks. So you can have like 4 1s, 4 16s, 4 4s, 4 2s, whatever. So, yeah, and the reason this whole conversation started was Steve was basically saying that he was getting the chimes of death when he just had the 64s in there. And I said, look, I have the same problem with mine. If I only have the 64s there in bank A, it doesn't like it. But if I put 4 1s into bank B, works fine. So we've now got a situation where the guys basically said the same thing. So time for testing. I'm just going to get some solder onto this corroded part of the copper. It's going to help protect it. We want to have it tinned. So we've got that solder which is providing protection to the copper, because copper, when exposed, it's the reason why there's solder mask on. One of the reasons why there's solder mask on here. When copper is just left exposed, it will corrode. Not as bad as like steel or something, but it will corrode. So this is me just cleaning this up. And we're doing the same with these pads. I mention this in my live streams all the time, but when it comes to soldering onto anything, the things you need are heat, flux, and it needs to be clean. The surface needs to be clean. If solder is not adhering the way you want it to, it's generally because you don't have enough heat, you don't have enough flux, or the surfaces are not clean. I did a job for a customer recently where they sent me a recapping kit, and the caps hadn't been stored particularly well, and it meant that when I was actually trying to solder the replacement caps onto the board, they weren't sticking because the pins on the caps had corroded, which is a real pain in the backside, because it's one of the reasons why I actually don't like it when people send me their own caps. They go, "Oh no, can you use my caps?" It's like, well, I can, but I don't know how they've been stored. I know how mine have been stored. And with this, I had to go and scrape a lot of corrosion off those pins in order to get them to stick on the board. It's just not a situation you want to be in. Okay, things don't look too bad around here. I've cleaned that up. That's now ready for a new cap. Let's work our way across the board onto the next one. Be right back. Back to the basement. I understand, Steve. I understand. I know what needs to be done. I'll let you watch me from the basement. How about that? Oh, and for goodness sake, Steve, clean it. Crikey. Stick it in the ultrasonic. You must clean it. It's what I say. It's what I say. Okay, we've got another one here. And we've got a few nasty looking traces around here. And I'm right in a nest of plastic here, so I need to be careful I don't melt things. Little quick shout out to some of the guys that I caught up with yesterday. Let me just, I just got to make sure, I forget all these names, so I just need to make sure I get all the names right. Bear with. But I do want to give them a shout out, and I don't want to get their names messed up. Sorry about this, folks. Here we go. Here we go. Apple's Anonymous, hello. Welcome to the stream. And I don't think I said hello to Vina Campbell either. Hello. How to procure a colour classic part? Is it something that could be fabricated without too much effort? Well, you could certainly 3D print the plastic part of it, but it's, let me see if I've got one here and I can show you the part I'm talking about. Oh, here we go. I've got one right behind me. Let's just change cameras here for a moment. So here, this is the part that I'm talking about. It's this connector on the end. So that's all plastic there, and of course that's fairly heat-resistant plastic as well. I mean, you could probably 3D print this. Then it's got all these fine little channels in it, and then these little bits of copper going in there. Now, I mean, could you make it? Maybe, but geez, it'd be labour intensive. I mean, it's on both sides. You've got these little copper bits going on both sides. Look at all the pins you've got associated with it there. There's a whole stack of them. Got to be 100 at least. And then that there. So yeah, this is the bit. And of course, without this bit, if you were going to put something else here, you'd have to put something else at the other end as well. Which again, it's not impossible. But that's probably the main thing that would be stopping this from being able to be reproduced. Most of this other stuff is all fairly readily available. So, yeah, it's just that guy there. Nasty. Go in there. Thank you. So, it shall be cleaned. Good. Good. Don't make me tell you again. Alright, so, whoopsie. So I just want to say a quick little shout out to the guys that I caught up with yesterday at NOSFest. If anyone's wondering what that is, it's N stands for Northmead, the suburb it's held in, and Oz is Oz, Australia. So NOSFest. It's a sort of regular gathering that these guys put together. They're largely members of the Australian Computer Museum Society. So just a shout out to Murray for hosting it, and to some of the guys that I caught up with there. I caught up with Sean with his Apple Euro Plus machine, which is fantastic. I caught up with Michael, he brought this amazing looking Chinese Apple clone. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a bizarre looking thing. It looked like a game console, but it was actually an Apple clone. Who else? And to Riley, who brought his he brought an Altair, which is wow. You don't see Altairs very often. Anyone who is not aware of an Altair, you have a look up the Altair in terms of the history of personal computing, because arguably, and I don't want to get into arguments about this, the Altair was arguably the first personal computer available to home users. So he brought an Altair along, amazing thing. Shout out to Eric, who brought a LC475 along, who was unable to get any video from it, and I was able to give him the information that he's not going to get any video until he puts a battery in it, which we did, and we got the thing started up. And to David, who brought a whole bunch of laptops around, and a bunch of power books with varying problems, and a huge shout out to Adrian as well. Had a really interesting chat with Adrian. Yeah. Anyhow, there's a shout out to folks. And as I say, there'll be more information. I'll be coming with more information about the Australian Computer Museum Society in time. It's an organisation, a charitable organisation here in Australia that look after vintage computer equipment that often gets donated by companies and stuff like that. They've got some amazing stuff in their collection. They've had some troubles in the past, but they seem to be well and truly back on their feet and working for the cause. And I, as I say, will be probably providing some information about them in coming live streams. So, right, let me have a look. NK Morpheus, hello. An Altair on an episode of the IT Crowd. Yes, so for fans of the IT Crowd, I don't know if it's in every episode, but quite a few episodes, the character Moss, who's the one with the curly hair, played by, what's his name? Can't remember it. It'll come to me later on. He has a whole bunch of vintage computers on the bench behind him, and on one of those computers on the bench behind him is an Altair. One of my favourite shows, IT Crowd, by the way. I just love it. I find it so funny. That's it, Richard Ayoade. So Richard Ayoade is just one of my favourite actors. He is so funny. He's also in a TV show called, I think it's called The Travel Guy or The Travel Man or something like that, where he goes around the world with a guest and just looks at the bizarrest things in different parts of the world. It's very, very funny stuff. And he was also in a TV show, which I'm sure you've never heard of before, called, far out, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. If you like a little bit of way out English humour, I highly recommend checking out Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. Richard Ayoade is in it, as well as a few other people. Some other people from the IT Crowd are in it. So worth checking it out. Right, okay, let's continue. I've gone completely off track once again. This is one of the reasons why my what do you call these things? Recappings in live streams always take so bloody long, because I just get sidetracked all the time. And the next thing you know, I'm talking about TV shows that I like. Yes, that's right. Yes, that is correct. They're all part of that same group. They all kind of had a lot of the same, you know, kind of. They were all working together, I think, around about the same time in comedy clubs and stuff like that. So people like Richard Ayoade, Noel Fielding, um, uh, who else? I can't remember any of the names. I'm terrible. But the guy that plays the part of the boss in the second series of the IT Crowd, the guy with that wonderful deep voice, which I just love. Just hearing that guy talk is enough to crack me up. He doesn't even need to say anything funny. But I can't remember his name. If someone mentions it, I'm sure I will remember it. But so we're going to just clean up some of these. Matt Berry, that's the one. Thank you, folks. I'm glad everyone's checking. New Retro Repair, hello. Thank you for joining the stream. Oh, look, I've got 40 people watching at the moment. How about that? It's not bad considering I virtually didn't, I did very little promotion of it, but I'm going to scrape this off. This scalpel's starting to look a little bit nasty. Yeah, as I say, Matt Berry virtually, he just makes me laugh when he opens his mouth. I mean, he virtually doesn't even need to say anything funny. But he's wonderful in Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, if you ever get a chance to see that. So he plays the part of someone Sanchez. I can't remember, but just really, really funny stuff. The premise of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is they've found some old tapes of a show made in the 1980s called Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. And the creator of the show, Garth Marenghi, is having a sort of a retrospective look at the show that he made and what went into it and stuff like that. And it's really, really low budget and meant to look like it was shot in the 80s and really, really funny. And some of the dialogue is just so out there, it's hilarious. Right, so I'm just cleaning up some of these traces here. We've got a few little flecks of gunk. This has just been caused by, you know, sort of a little bit of the old capacitor leakage. We're very familiar with it. We've seen it all before. But I've just got to clean it up. I want to make sure it all looks good. She looks like a candle in the wind. Unreliable. Oh. Oh dear, oh dear. Love it. Love it. I'm going to get some solder on top of these traces here, just to protect them. And then I generally use wick to just get a nice smooth coating on them. So I get the solder on and then just clean it up a little bit with the wick. For anyone who's not sure what solder wick is, it is just braided copper with a bit of flux in it. And you can see it allows me to get these nice smooth finishes on these traces. Anything that's still left exposed after I do this, you know, any copper that's exposed, I'll then use UV solder mask and I will cure that with UV light, and that will help protect any of that copper from the future. Because this is what we're basically doing, we're trying to protect these from the future. Just again mentioning the people that I spoke to yesterday, I had a discussion with this guy Adrian, and we were just talking about how we're dealing with these problems at the moment. These are the problems that are surfacing now, things like these capacitors. But of course, what's the next wave going to be? You know, we could all of a sudden find that other things start failing, and then we get a huge rush on repairs of other things. And they may end up being things failing that we can't replace, or we can't replace easily. We might end up having to print new PCBs to make them work with modern components and stuff like that. I mean, we just don't know what the future holds with these things because we've kind of never been there before. We're just discovering it as it happens. Okay, so... right, okay, so there we go. At least I'm talking about vintage computers and not TV shows now. This here is a real-time clock chip. And one of the things about this real-time clock chip is it does actually store the PRAM data as well as keeping the time. And there's our little crystal there. That'll be our, I can't remember what the frequency is. Someone else will tell me. There's the same frequency used for all clock chips. And it's, I can't remember. Is it written on it? Someone in the chat will know. One particular frequency that's always used for real-time clock. And I actually bought 20. There we go. There you go. 32768 hertz. Thank you, Joe. I knew Joe would know. Joe would know. Oh, incidentally, Joe, if I didn't mention this to you before, you remember that classic that was flickering? That the analog board that was flickering? I can't remember if I told you this, but I had that classic board, and and you were watching the stream at the time. The flickering was actually being caused by, just going to change views here, top view, was being caused by, on the classic analog board, this chip here, TEA2053. It's the deflection controller in position IF1. Replacing that, flicker went away. So there you go. Just thought I'd tell you in case I didn't tell you before. I may have already told you before, and if I have, I promise not to tell you again. If your RTC chip goes wonky, you're going to have all sorts of problems, won't boot, etc. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've run one of these without an RTC in it. I could be wrong though. Certainly maybe the early ones like a Mac Plus, something like that. But yes, I did actually find these at UT Source, which is a supplier in China. I bought 20 of them. So I thought these were unprocurable, but they're not. So I've got a bunch of these on their way. So it's absolutely fantastic. Right. All right. So let me continue because at the moment I'm getting nowhere. I shouldn't really say that. I am making some progress, but it's just very, very slow. And I've already said that I will go out to lunch with my wife today. So, have to get this done in a time where it's still acceptable to go and eat lunch. Cleaning. Look at the way all these solder balls are coming out from this. They don't normally do that. What's all that about? Huh? Yes, I mean, yeah, look, it could well be the case. I've never run an SE30 without an RTC chip. I know that when I had a wonky RTC chip on an SE, it just did the weirdest stuff. I mean, it still worked, it still booted, it still ran and everything like that, but when I would go to set the time, I would type in the time and I'd press set, and then it would immediately just change to a completely different time. So the data that was going in there was just getting corrupted on the way in there or on the way out. But yes, I did manage to get a replacement, and that SE is now my SE, my main SE. And I do like the SE. I don't know, because the SE is pretty much, it's almost just like a Plus that has an internal hard drive, or has a bay for an internal hard drive and an internal socket. You can run an SE with dual floppies or with a floppy and a hard drive. And I just feel that from the compact Mac perspective, the SE, the SE, not the SE30, and we all love the SE30, that's basically a Mac 2X inside a compact Mac case. The SE, I felt, was a real maturing of the product. You had the 128K, you had the 512K, you had the Mac Plus. By the time we got to the SE, and in particular the one with the FDHD, the one that reads the high density discs, I felt that by the time we got to that, the product had definitely matured. It was, it was a good. I felt it's a pretty good machine. I'm a fan of the SE, I have to say, and I quite like the design too, with all the little lines on it, which of course they kept in their design with all the modular Macs, like the Mac 2 and the Mac 2 2X and the Mac 2 Ci, CX, the SE30, etc. Sorry about that, Trina. I did notice the mistake, but I noticed it too late. Too late to apologise. Okay, let's just do a little scrapey scrape here, just to make sure that we're looking like we have copper along here. There we go. So everything I'm doing at the moment is visually based. This is just based on what I see on the board. I'm not doing anything in the way of like real kind of diagnostic type stuff. Just going to snippety snip this guy. Snip. Snip. Goodbye, capacitor. I'm going to replace him. Move on to this little cluster here. We're seeing a little bit of ugliness here, but not as bad as in some other places. So I'm just going to clean these up. This one shouldn't take long. Got your notification late. Sorry, Michael. I do not have control over that. It's just how it goes. But I did. You know what I did? You know what I did? Guess what I did? I Twitterited it. I Twitterited it. So I'm not really a Twitter person, but I actually Twitterited it. So if you're someone who's on the Twitter, and you follow me, or I don't know how it works. I don't really know how it works with Twitter, but I did send a notification out that I was live streaming. So, and I believe the Twitteries go out quite reliably. So, just maybe keep that in mind if you're wanting the notification, because I am going to be trying to tweet all of my live streams in the future. You know what I didn't do with the one that I did today? I didn't do a single hashtag. How is that for someone who absolutely does not get the way Twitter works? I did hashtags in the past, but I forgot this time. The thing is, I basically need like a 15-year-old child to explain how Twitter works for me. I know Steve has offered. He's offered. But Steve's a very busy person like me. I don't want to take up too much of his time. I suppose there's probably lots of stuff on YouTube I could check out about that. Oh, thank you, Retro Checky. I will try and do some interesting tweets that are actually worth viewing, worth your followage. Yeah, so I went to this thing yesterday, this little Nosfest thing, and I thought I was going to be there for like half an hour or something like that. And I ended up staying there for like about, I don't know, 4 hours or something. That's what happens when vintage computer geeks all hang out together. Wow, look at this one. Nasty. Nasty. Nasty trace. Don't mean a thing. It's just these ones that are dark and discoloured that I want to sort out. Some of this one's dark and discoloured all the way along there. Oh, see, I just dropped my my wick. Thankfully, I have more wick. John Wick. Baba Yaga. And these traces look like they're all still carrying electricity, but they just don't look too crash hot, so got to clean them up. Doing my duty. If I don't do these things properly, Jay from House of Moth usually calls me out. And he'll be like, hey, why aren't you cleaning that trace there? And I'll be like, oh, I think it's alright. He'll be like, no, that's not what we expect from Brancus. And then he guilts me into fixing it. We make a good team. Quick shout out to appleserialnumberinfo.com, website for looking up Apple serial numbers. I know a lot of you are probably used to using every Mac for that purpose, but appleserialnumberinfo.com actually provides a little bit more info than every Mac does. But there's something even more important than what that website provides. It has a monthly poll. And you get to go in and vote from 4 different computers which is your favourite. And what I recommend everyone does is jump onto that website now, appleserialnumberinfo.com. Do put in the link, please, Jay, and vote for the Quadra 950 because it's mine and your favourite Mac. I love the Quadra 950. I've got to tell you, the thing I love about it the most is it is massive. It is just so substantial. It's like, it virtually, it just announces, it says, I am powerful. Now, of course, it isn't anymore, but it was then. I am a workhorse. Quadra 950. I used to work on those. I just remember so well using them. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. It wasn't, because it was a very long time ago. But I remember working on the 950. It was like, I think I actually had 2 950s at my desk, because the work that I did, you know, I would be doing multiple things on different computers at the same time, and I think I had at least 2 950s at my desk, and yeah, oh geez, they were a workhorse. They were fantastic. Gotta love them. This is one of the reasons why I reckon everyone should go and vote for the Quadra 950. I say vote for the 1998 iMac. No, Trina, no. You can vote for whatever you like. Seriously, everyone here, just vote for whatever you like, as long as it's the Quadra 950. There's another black trace. Okie dokie. What time is it? Okay, still not too bad. Still not too late. I do believe I can get. Ooh, I can get this recapped before I get so ravenously hungry that I can't do anything. It's interesting. I've got an I am getting an Xserve. Company I used to work for, they upgraded and they've got the Xserve left behind. And I said, "Can I have it?" And they said, "Yeah, sure." I've just got to go pick it up. Must go do that sometime. Don't want to miss out. I've been trying to work through this incredibly huge backlog I have of recapping to do, and I've basically just been trying to just get one board done a day, and that's sort of keeping my head above water at the moment. The repairs, the big diagnostics repairs jobs, they're the ones that are suffering at the moment, just because they do take so much time. I have sort of explained to people that that's kind of the situation that we have. That if I can't, if I can't get something sorted in a relatively short span of time, I have to put it aside and move on to something else and then come back to it later on. And I invest, a little bit of time and then a break and then a little bit of time, which is actually kind of good sometimes when you're doing diagnostic work anyway. Taking a break from these things sometimes, you start looking at things in a different way. As long as you record what you've done so far, make notes of it, so you don't go in and accidentally start doing the same things again. It's a good way to work. Is to spend a few hours, but don't sort of spend too much time on it, or you start resenting it and making mistakes, and you'll sometimes that distance, spending that time away from it, just helps you come up with some fresh ideas of ways to deal with the problem. Okay, just cleaning up all these traces as usual. A little bit of extra solder there. Good. We're good. Let's get these little pins. Oh, okay, I'll do this pad first. Oh, far out, look what I did. Yay. Is there a way to lock that? Lock. No. Transform. I don't know. Yeah, I do that sometimes. What happens is I've got my mouse sitting here and I just bump it when I'm travelling the soldering line backwards and forwards or something like that, and I just move the window across. So it's stupid. It's so stupid. Gonna get these pins out. Gonna wrap some solder around them until they get super hot. This one here is attached to a ground plane, so it's very hard to get out. But we have the tools. What the hell, man? You're making me look bad. There she goes. And let's do the same on this one. This one's easier. Having done a few of these before, I know which ones give me grief. Take these out too. Sunny, hello. Let me, I see a great deal of information you're providing on the chat here. I will read that in a moment, but for the moment, I'm pulling pins. All right, right. When you start them up, yeah, I know they're expensive to run. This one apparently has problems too, so I'm gonna have a bit of fun fixing it up. Fiber channel card. I think I might even be getting an Xserve RAID with it as well. So you know, yes, and we love the lights. Love the lights on them. How cool are they? Those little blue lights and stuff. Cool. So cool. Futuristic. Like 2001 Space Odyssey. I'm sucking the solder out of these holes here, and so many people say to me, how do you do that? It never does it for me. And I say, oh, it always does it for me perfectly. No, I don't say that at all, because it doesn't. It's often a nightmare. And this is one of the reasons why I left one of those till last. There you go. So this one, unless it makes a liar out of me, is generally the worst one to get the solder out of. So we'll just see what happens. It saps so much of the heat away. So I'm going to answer the question, because people ask me this all the time. What do you do when these ones get solder in them and you can't get the solder out? Well, what I do is I put some new solder in them, make sure they're all full up of solder, because solder likes hanging out with other solder. So as long as you've got lots of solder in there, then I get a great big soldering iron tip. This is a T12 C4, and it is a great big flat bevel tip. And so it has this really large flat surface on the end of the iron where you can just get a whole bunch of heat coming out. How much heat? A whole bunch. Then I get some solder wick, make sure this is all super hot. It's heating up now. It is currently at beep. That's a bit hot actually. 430 degrees Celsius, which is what I solder at. Don't recommend it for everyone, but it's how I like to solder, so just relax. Okay, and then I'm just going to hit that with mega heat. And then we're going to hope that it's sort of emptied the holes, a little bit on the other side. But I think if we just get to the other side, we should be able to clear that out, which I think is... There it is, it's there. Okay, let's just get that last little bit of solder up. And the hole is through. Now we can go back to our normal size tip, return to our scheduled tip. That's what I love about T12 tips. You can swap them over while you're soldering and not burn your fingers. Bip. Ludek, hello, thank you for joining. Turn red hot. Sorry, yes. So those who may not have seen the live streams, Steve from Mac84. If you're not a subscriber to his channel, go and subscribe. He recently bought a soldering iron, and he had an issue where he put in a soldering iron tip, and the thing just went red hot. This is jam hot. Yeah, so not good. He had to switch the machine off and on again in order to get it to be responsive. And we're all like, what? They're like, what? It's not what you want. You know, that has actually happened to me once. And I think it only happened once. And it was not with my Hacko, it was with a Hacko knockoff, and I think it was a Hacko knockoff tip as well. I don't know whether it was the tip that caused it or the station, but switched it off and on again, and then it was all back to normal. And I felt at the time like it was because I didn't put the tip in properly. I hadn't made proper contact. That's what I felt at the time. That was a Brankus feeling. Got that Brankus feeling. Okay, Retro Checky, good night. Thank you for joining. I do apologise that these streams do often end up running quite late in the evening for some people in some parts of the world. Yeah, I mean, this is the whole thing with the fact that the planet is round or spherical. Oh wow, I did miss your message. It's all fixed, but the SE30 just needs to resolve the SCSI termination issue. I missed my message. Yes. Okay, so can you just confirm to me that just putting those extra ones in fixed it up, Steve? Is that? You've been sending me messages probably on Messenger. Let me have a look. The Mac-Yak group, we send messages to each other a lot. Maybe not. Anyhow. Okay. I'm one of those round earthers. Yeah, that's right. The thing that I always just find bizarre about the whole flat earth thing is that you can prove that the earth is round just like at home. You don't need to be in an aeroplane or anything like that. But anyhow, doesn't matter. If it is what makes people happy, then go for it. Would save a lot of tears. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Vladek. Okay, so SCSI termination issue. Talk to me, Steve. What's a SCSI termination issue? Talk to me. Talk to me. Alright, I think I can start sticking new caps on this. I'm going to just solder mask a few spots. I don't want to accidentally cause shorts when I put these, shorts being short circuit. That's what short is, abbreviation of a short circuit. And what it basically means is that a part of the circuitry that is meant to run a certain distance doesn't run as far as it should, because it's made contact with something when it shouldn't. And so that's why it's short, as in it's not as long as it should be. And so that's, yeah, it's called a short circuit. And when I put tantalum caps on here, The pins of the tantalum caps are wider than these pads, and so they hang over the edge, and so they can hang over the edge and touch. See, for instance, look at this little trace here. Look at him. Look at him. He's all exposed. And if that pin were to hang over the edge and hit that, we would create a short circuit. And we don't want to be short. We like being tall. We like tall circuits. So I'm just hitting this with a bit of isopropyl alcohol, and I'm rubbing it with a Q-tip, or as we call them here in Australia, a cotton bud, and then cleaning it up with a tissue, because I need this surface to be as clean as possible in order for the solder mask to adhere to it. If it's a little bit gungy, it won't. So I'm just going to get my laser beam, because I use a UV laser beam to cure the UV solder mask. Does it quite quickly. It's actually quite sunny outside. I could probably just do it in the Australian sun, but I'm going to do it with my pew laser beam. And just a little tip to anyone who's feeling adventurous: do not point UV laser beams at webcams, because it kills them. It certainly leaves you with little spots on them. Now you might think, why would anyone do anything so stupid? Well, because I like to deliver interesting things here at the Brankus Creations YouTube channel. This brush is not doing so well. Just do a little bit of precautionary masking here. My UV mask is getting really kludgy. It's not as smooth as it used to be. I think it's starting to dry out. I'm going to need to buy some more. Someone delivered to me a Macintosh SE today, which has been recapped, but unfortunately, after recapping, it still didn't fix it. And the person who dropped it off said that he, wanted to have a crack, see if he could sort it out. I said, no problem. Bring it back if you don't have any luck. And he brought it back. I think he was possibly terrified that I might end up charging him a huge amount of money to fix it up. Which I might have, I don't know. But we'll see. Hopefully I can fix it. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Luke Robertson. Thank you for joining. Okay. Link to Mac Discord. Awesome. Well done. Capacitor SE I have won't work on the SE30 board without external USB power. Okay. But it works fine in another SE30. I'll have to check the diode and the SCSI cable just in case. Yeah, that's interesting. So it's not getting enough power to power it. Okay, so just catching up on the chat. Why not what? My brain is like a sieve, and I say stuff and then I immediately forget what I said. So when you say why not, it's why not to what? Sorry, Joe. It's a great skill to have, to immediately forget what you say straight after saying it. Just means that every conversation you have is fresh. Because I do know I repeat myself in my live streams quite a bit. Part of that is deliberate, because it's not always exactly the same people watching. So I want to make sure that some of the information I'm providing is, I'm making sure that information gets out there. I had a conversation with someone yesterday where I started telling them a story, and partway through that story I just knew that I'd already told them the story. And they was just so polite they didn't say anything. Isn't that nice of them? Oh, yeah. Not pointing the laser at the webcam. No, not again. Webcams are far too precious commodity these days. I did buy another one. The webcam that is pointing at my face at the moment is the newer one that I bought. How much would a repair like this? In the UK, people charge around £50 to £60 an hour for micro soldering. I charge... what I charge does kind of vary. So for recapping, I generally don't mention my prices on my live streams because those prices may well change. And I don't want someone saying, oh, look, you said it was this much on your live stream. So generally the updated pricing is on my Recap a Mac website. And of course, it's in Australian dollars, which is around about... So £50 is around about 100 Australian dollars. So you generally just take whatever I have and whatever price I've put there and you halve it. That's a price for recapping, and that is it's not the price I charge for recapping everything. It's a fairly good guide of a recapping price, straight recapping. This one here is an unusual one in that it's already been recapped. But it is virtually like starting a job from scratch. It has a fair bit of trace damage here, but it's not that bad. So far I haven't had to repair anything, I've just had to clean it up. So I wouldn't necessarily call this trace repair, I would just call this like, trace cleaning, let's say. So I will probably charge a little bit extra on this one here. I do sometimes also give a bit of a break to folks when I'm doing live stream repairs, and that's because I take a really long time to do them on live streams, so I just can't charge them the hourly rate that I would if I was just sitting here, concentrating away with no other distractions. I can recap, 10 times the speed, not 10 times, but certainly at least 2 or 3 times the speed when I've got no distractions. I don't like to get this UV mask on too thick because otherwise it takes too long to dry. And more importantly, the UV light doesn't permeate all the way through. So we end up with kind of a dry shell on the outside, but it doesn't dry underneath. So I've just, as I say, want it thick enough to protect it, but not too thick that I had trouble drying it. This is a big blob of UV mask here, so it is taking a little while to dry. My audio is going robot once in a while, not doing it at the moment. Your battery may be on its way out. Robot's not usually that though, is it? But maybe. Hopefully the battery's not on its way out because it's not blinking. It blinks when the battery's low, so I think it's still okay. Let me just twiddle my bits. Just let me know how it goes, folks, if the audio starts getting really, really nasty. I do have this backup microphone here, so if this one switches off, I still do have some audio coming from this one. I've learned my lesson. Audio sounds fine to me, so it's you, Joe. Just saying. Anyone who's watching this and just sees House of Moth's comment there, Jay is referring to Bernie, my chicken, one of my chickens. Oh, speaking of which, the chickens are still locked up. I need to go let them out, poor little things. I'll do that as soon as I finish drying this UV. I'll just duck off for a moment, let the chickens out. But I have a chicken called Bernadette, named because we found her loitering around a school called St. Bernadette's. Went into the school and said, hey, do you guys have chickens at this school? And they said, no. I said, okay, no worries. Well, you got a chicken on your grounds. I said, I am quite happy to catch it and take it home because I have other chickens. And they said, yep, that sounds great. So they came and let me in. I chased the chicken around for a while. The chicken made me look like a complete idiot. I grabbed it, brought it home, and it is a very personality-full chicken. She She has provided quite a bit of fun in the live streams in the past when she appears. And Johnson says hello. She mainly appears later in the day. And it starts to get to dusk. She sort of tends to come in, you know, sort of for shelter. She comes in here and hops up on the microscope, says g'day. So that's Bernie. Well, I think that's dry. So, bit staticky occasionally, yeah. So there's two causes for the staticky. Sometimes it's the connection on this microphone that I've got around the little lapel mic here, and then I've got a lousy cable on this one here, which I still haven't replaced. All right, folks, I will be back in about 1 minute, so just sit tight. I just want to go let the poor little chickens out. I'm back. Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for joining. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. I think I've stepped in something. Something reeks. Probably stepped in chook poo. Okay. Right, so we've got the mask sorted out there. And you know, I don't like the look of these chips here, and they could well be the cause of some problems. I mean, I'm going to give this an ultrasonic clean, which would hopefully make them look better. But if when I test this after putting these caps on, it still doesn't work, this will be the area I'll be looking at, because to be honest, it's the part that probably looks the worst. Looking. Right, okay, continuing here with what we want to do. I want to get a little bit more UV mask onto this one here. I think a lot of these are going to need mask because, to be honest, the mask on the surrounding traces is really not in good condition. And then we can sit and chat and talk about interesting things while we're waiting for the mask to dry. And then you can walk away and say, hey, what did you do today? Oh, I sat and watched UV solder mask dry. Got a big shipment of caps the other day. I need to replenish my stocks. So I do go through them at an extraordinary rate. Which is to be expected. The thing that always gets me is when I work on something, like for instance, someone sent me a board to recap, not a Mac, it's actually the guts of a Sony monitor, and sent me the recapping kit. It's like, can you recap this? It's like, yeah, I can. But sure enough, when I open it up, find a great big swollen capacitor, checked with the ESR meter, it was way too low, and Then when I took the cap off, I couldn't even measure it with my multimeter. It was just reading as open. So, you know, the cap's gone. It's dead. And of course, sure enough, it's not a cap I have in my stock, so I have to order it. You know, the minimum order I can get is 5, so I have to order 5 of them. This is one of the reasons why you have to kind of, well, I like to specialize in a certain area, specialize on certain products, because then you can just sort of buy particular capacitors and not have to continually keep buying more and more and more different types of capacitor. Okay, Steve. See you soon. I know I'm not soldering at the moment. If anyone here is sort of came here to watch me solder, I do apologise. But this is part of it. I've got a new soldering video that I'm working on at the moment, which is my beginner's guide to soldering part 2. And in that I'm going to be building a kit, a little electronics kit, and I'm just going to be going through some of the little tips and tricks for building kits and making sure they all look good and making sure they work the first time. And then I'm going to be doing a video on surface mount soldering, so I'm going to be going through and giving some of my tips on surface mount soldering. And then I'm going to be doing a video on repairing mistakes, and this is kind of what I do a lot of here. So some of the sorts of mistakes you might make are lifting a pad, damaging a trace, exposing some solder mask. You might, you know, bend something out of shape. You might bust a pin off a chip. What else? Or melt something with your soldering iron. Melt a bit of plastic with your soldering iron. And I go through a few little tips to try and resolve these issues, because it's all very well to provide people with information on how not to make those mistakes, but invariably they do end up happening. And when it does happen, it's nice to have some tools in the kit, some bit of knowledge to try and sort those things out when they happen, because as I say, invariably they do happen. And once you have the confidence to do those sorts of repairs, it actually makes soldering a lot easier. One of the things I've often commented on is that since I have learned how to repair these things, since I've learned how to fix mistakes, I make fewer mistakes. It's like, has anyone here ever changed a watch band? And you know how that, not like an Apple Watch, but like an older watch band that has those little spring things, and you push them in, they have those little spring pins, they spring out on either side. And so when you take the band off, you've got to get a little thing and you've got to unhook that little spring thing, and then when you put it back in, you've got to squeeze it in and put it in. And because they're spring loaded, they have a tendency to just fly across the room. I know that whenever I used to work on replacing watch bands, I used to always lose those pins. So I went and bought a box of all different size pins, lots of different size pins. And I've never lost one ever since. Now that I know I've got spares, I never lose any of the ones that I take out. Try and explain that. Huh? Hearing a bit of static now. Piffle. Let me just turn the sound up for a bit. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Okay, they've got a bit of static with that. Okay. All right, I'm going to try this. Just tell me something. Does the static go away when I do this? Is the static gone now? Can you tell me that? I mean, the sound may not be as loud, but is the static gone? I think this battery may not have got charged properly. Okay, so let's continue with this. He called me crazy. I don't think I did actually call you crazy. I mean, you are a little bit crazy, Jay, but I don't think I actually called you that. For now, it's gone. Okay, so yeah, I've disconnected my lapel mic, so I'm just using this microphone here now. So the sound may not be as good, because the lapel mic certainly does have a mic much closer to my mouth, in particular when I'm down here on the microscope. But as long as you can still hear me, that's all that matters. Unless you don't want to hear me, in which case, I don't know, Probably turn the volume down or something. Smash that like button. Static still there. Sounds like a distant version of a cell phone interfering for a few seconds. Well, gosh. I don't know what the cause is. I could turn this one off. How about this? I'll go to this mic and I'll switch the other one off and you tell me if the static goes. Because, I'm sure it's fairly obvious now, but I can't hear my own audio. So, I've got a speaker I can turn up, but then I actually hear my audio with about a 4-second delay or something like that. It's very annoying. So, here's this microphone. Let me turn off this microphone. Does that make any difference, please? Please. Please. And if that doesn't make any difference, then it's either the device that's actually capturing the sound down here, I could switch him off and on again, or it's something to do with the actual live stream, in which case there's really little I can do about it. I sound horribly Australian now, do I? Oh dear. How's it going? All right? Yeah, good, thanks. You pass us a tinny? Want to blow the froth off a couple? It cracked when you switch the transmitter on. That's probably normal. Sorry, static's still there. Okay, well, there is something else I can try. Oh god, it'll probably make everything not work anymore. I can't hear it. So I could switch this thing off and on again, because all the sound, all of my sound audio equipment are going through this little device here. It's plugged in via USB. I can unplug him and plug him in again. But if I unplug something from USB, literally everything can fall apart. Cameras can stop working, sound can stop working. So I apologise, guys, for the static. I'm really not sure there's much I can do about it at the moment. I will look into it later on, but it's trying to diagnose a problem like that when I can't even hear it. It's virtually impossible. I can't hear anything because of this stupid bloody fume extractor. Probably doesn't even need to be on. So let's turn that off. Static. 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 Okay. Sorry about the static, folks. Because it's something I might be able to get rid of with a filter. Just UV, sort of curing this UV mask here at the moment, using my little pew-pew laser beam. I think this is the third last one that I'll need to probably apply UV mask to. We're going to need it down here because this one has got that exposed trace. It is a shame this part takes so long curing the UV. I mean, I know it's quicker than it used to be using the laser beam, but it does take some time. When I've got one that uses heaps and heaps of mask, what I will sometimes do, pardon me, what I will sometimes do is I will just load it all up with UV mask and then sit it under a UV lamp or put it out in the sun and then just come back to it later on. But because that doesn't make for a particularly entertaining live stream. So I want to try and get this done so that we can test it while everyone is still here and watching. It's fantastic seeing people get into, you know, vintage collecting, you know, getting into the hobby of whether it be vintage Mac collecting or just vintage computer collecting, you know, getting into that hobby, particularly people who weren't alive when those computers were around. I mean, I have a nostalgic interest in these things because I was using a lot of these computers. I have a nostalgic interest in the ones that I used to use. But I watch these people way younger than me that are going in and collecting these Macs that they've never used. They've never actually worked with them at all. They're just interested in the hobby. They're interested in how these old computers work. They like the hands-on experience with them of trying old operating systems and seeing the way they worked and what you can do and what you can't do and all that sort of stuff. You know, I like it. It's good. What's going on over here? While we're lasering. Whoopsie. Oh, that is one dirty scalpel. G5, how about that? Yeah, a Power Mac G5 from a year before I was born, yeah. Well, I can tell you, I've told this story many times before. The Maciaccas will have heard it like about 50 gazillion times, so I'm sorry, guys. But I actually got a Power Mac G5 in 2003, brand spanking new. It's the most I'd ever spent on a computer at all before. It was, I think, over $5,000. Ouch, I've stabbed myself. And it was awesome. It was just awesome. It was so powerful. I had never ever throughout my life taken such a big step in speed when I got that G5 compared to what I owned before. I was probably using some sort of G3, I can't remember. But I just remember that when that G5 arrived and I started using it, you know, I mean, I remember going from a 68K to a 68030. I remember going from a 68030 to a 68040. I remember going to PowerPC. I remember going to from 601s to 603s, from 603s to 604s. You know, I just remember these experiences, and then up to the G3s and stuff. I remember these, you know, happening, and I remember each time you get a new computer, it goes a little bit faster, and that's great. But never had I experienced the speed jump that I got when I got my G5. That was just unbelievable. And it was just absolutely fantastic. So, you know, I mean, I know it's not, a lot of people criticise the G5, and there are lots of reasons why, and I understand some of those reasons. Other ones, I think people are just being silly. But yeah, they were just amazing at the time, really amazing. I remember even talking about some of the speed, you know, some of the speed that I was getting from it, talking to some of my PC friends, and they were just blown away by it. I used to do that SETI at home thing where you'd search for extraterrestrial intelligence and it would process those units, and I used to tell them how fast the G5 would do a unit. They were just absolutely blown away by it. So yeah, it was a pretty amazing time. But of course nowadays people generally just remember the G5 as a great big noisy hot machine that used huge amounts of electricity. And yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly unfair, but you know. Now, of course, there's plenty of things you can criticise about the G5 iMac because of the fact that it was made with defective capacitors. It's not Apple's fault. They were, you know, they bought those capacitors in good faith. They didn't realise they were defective, and it didn't only happen to Apple. And of course, to get the G5 chip into an iMac case and still have reasonable thermal management, it had to be throttled. So you weren't getting a full G5 speed from the iMacs. But the G5 iMac, I mean, what a big design thing that was. Having the whole computer in the screen like that. Of course, they're still doing it today. Something that Apple had been trying to do for such a long time with their all-in-ones. And I feel like once they made the G5 iMac, they kind of, all of that hard work and planning and whatnot all came to fruition. All of a sudden, here's a computer that is essentially the whole computer tucked into the back of the screen. Clever stuff. Ah, right. Okay. So, okay. Yeah, I've heard this story a gazillion times. Yeah, I know. It's one of the things that happens with the Maciac. I mean, like, I tell the same stories. GT tells the same stories. Boy, I've heard some of his stories about like 8 times each. We're very good at repeating ourselves, and we do that for the benefit of people watching ultimately, because a lot of the time there are people watching that haven't heard the story before. But us, we've heard them all. Yeah. Right. Oh, hello, Ron. I don't think I said hello to you. Welcome to the stream. I don't know how long you've been lurking, but I only just saw you then. So hello and welcome. Bought a 72 and yeah, I'm impressed by the speed. It was the last brand new Mac I ever purchased. Oh, gee, nightmare to repaste. Well, I haven't had to repaste it yet, so. Yeah, in terms of brand new Macs that I've bought, the last brand new Mac I bought was probably a white MacBook, I think. I don't think I've bought anything else brand new. I've bought like an Apple TV, but everything else now I tend to buy secondhand. The Mac that I use now as my main workhorse is a Mac Pro, classic Mac Pro, 5,1, 2012 model with dual hex core 3 gigahertz and I think 128 gigs of RAM. It might be 64. I can't remember. I always say, how much is in this one? It's double what's in this one. About this Mac. This one's got 32, so that one must have 64. Yep, cool. Still a pretty good workhorse for a computer that's nearly 10 years old. I'm sort of tempted to get an M1 one day. I'm not ready for it yet, but yeah, I'm still not ready to part with Mojave, to be honest. I've still got too many apps that use 32-bit that I'm not ready to part with. I was looking at my computer the other day, just looking up all of the 32-bit apps that I have running on it. And I'm like, oh, I can't be without that, and I can't be without that. So unless I can get 64-bit versions of them, some of them I won't. I'm going to really struggle moving across to Catalina or Big Sur. Big Sur. That's got to be dry, hasn't it? It's got to be. Right, last little cluster of caps here. This is such a tedious part of the job, but we got to get it right. This one's not too bad around here. This is usually where you get the worst damage around this area. Well, actually, I shouldn't. This is where you get the second worst damage. The worst is usually around the sound chips, but it's usually pretty bad here. It's actually in really good condition around here. I am amazed. Five, 1 club represent. Yeah. Most of us in the well, not most, but certainly a fair few of us in the Maciac group are all classic Mac Pro 5,1 people. The great thing about it, of course, is the expandability. For instance, my classic Mac Pro, as I said, it's got 64 gigs of RAM in it, which is a pretty decent amount of RAM. I know you can have more, but it's still a pretty decent amount. I've got Samsung 860 Evo SSD drive in it, and that's mounted to one of those Sonnet SSD card, PCI card thingies that you just plug straight into the PCI slot, which means you get way faster throughput than you would just from the standard hard drive connector. So that gives it quite a bit of speed. I don't know what's going on. My neighbour is doing something. I don't know if he's lifting weights or something, but I can just hear constant clanging metal. It's really pissing me off. But to be quite honest, my neighbour really doesn't care too much about noise. He's got this awful 4-cylinder car that he starts up all the time. I don't mind the loudness of it. I mind how piss weak the engine sounds. Okay. Hello everyone. I'm talking very quietly now because I don't have the fume extractor on. I talk really loud when the fume extractor's on, but I can talk quieter now. Let's check the chat. My daily is also 5.1. Yes. Yeah. Just got an M1 on Friday. Going to set up later tonight. Cool, cool, cool. Big fur. Okay. I set up a. I'm doing stuff with Aperture at the moment, trying to improve things. I mean, I think the biggest problem I have with Aperture right now is the fact that my photo library is so massively huge. I probably need to kind of archive and create a new one, and then just because it's quite easy to flick between Aperture libraries. Static has been gone since you turned off the fume extractor. Well, gosh. Okay, well that tells me something, doesn't it? I'm going to have to switch it back on again soon. I'll try not to switch it on as strong because I'm going to get out the soldering iron in a moment. Very, very soon we will be soldering. And although I don't necessarily expect that it will just work once I get the caps back on, I'm going to say there's about a 45% chance that it will. I'm going to say 45% chance. I need to say something entertaining, don't I? I really should clean this off before I cured it, shouldn't I? Sometimes I just do things that are stupid. Yeah, I know 45 is pretty specific. I just didn't want to go all the way to 50. I feel like that was just just pushing it too hard. I feel like almost 50, but not quite. Yeah, it does sound like a metal foundry next door. I don't know. I don't know if it's someone playing with dumbbells or barbells or something like that, and that, dropping weights up and down, or maybe they're building something. I'm not sure. I've heard the sound before. It can't be weights. If it's weights, he's doing it wrong. Speaking as an ex-gym junkie. I know you wouldn't know it to look at me now, but I did used to go to the gym a lot. Then I got fat. Does anyone remember the name of that OS 7 desktop background image program? It'll let you do full screen backgrounds unlike the control panel. I know the one you're talking about. Can't for the life of me remember what it was called though. Steve, are you here, Steve? For anyone who's not aware, who's not, not aware of where to find sort of old bits of software for the vintage Macs, the best place to look is Macintosh Garden. MacintoshGarden.com, I think it is. Or org or something, I don't know, I can't remember what it is, whatever it is. But anyhow, it's run by a guy called Christian, and he has an unbelievably dizzying collection of vintage software there, operating systems, utilities, games, applications, the whole lot. Stuff that we used to pay thousands for back in the olden days. And you can get Quark Express on there, for goodness sake. That thing used to cost thousands of dollars. A lot of this stuff is actually still quite functional today, I've found. You can get old versions of Photoshop there that you can still do retouching with. Dry, sucker, dry. Alright, I think we're all good. I think we're ready to start sticking some caps on. So, fume extractor's going to come back on, unfortunately. It's all, yeah, I thought it might have been. And of course, there is another website that does vintage Mac stuff. I recommend staying away from that for a few reasons. First of all, they put some serious restrictions on your downloading. Sometimes, you can only download, you go to download 2 files in a row and it says, no, you have to wait. Although that other one, I do generally prefer the search engine, I will often just do my searching on that website and then download what I want off Macintosh Garden. I'm going to grab my recapping guide here, recapamac.com. You will find recapping guides for lots of different computers, including the one that I'm working on now, the Macintosh SE 30. And although I should have probably memorized which caps go where, I haven't. So there. Here it is. Good old SE30. And we have got 1 microfarad 50 volt, 10 47 microfarad 16 volt, 1 220 microfarad 16 volt axial, 1 470 16 volt axial. Let's start with the 1 microfarad 50 volt post haste. Okay, 1 microfarad 50 volt. I bought new ones of these the other day. And that goes here. It's this one here with the little tiny, the pads closer together than these ones. See, they're the big ones on the right and the little ones on the left. So we've got to make sure it goes around the right way. We've got a plus sign here, shows us which direction it should be. And the plus sign on the tantalum capacitors is the little stripe. Not to be confused with the electrolytic capacitors that have the stripe on the negative side. That was devised by some evil electronics engineer out there who was just trying to confuse us by making the stripe positive on tantalums and negative on surface mount electrolytics. Probably someone who had a bit of an inferiority complex and wanted to make us all suffer. Unless someone can come up with another reason better than the one I just gave. That's the one I'm sticking to. Okay, as you can see, this capacitor is virtually the same size as the pad, so we have to be very, very careful in making sure that it is properly secured. I'll give it a bit of a nudge from both sides. He's secured, and we've just got the plus to plus, so we're all good there. Let's put the rest of the caps on. Desk picture 4.5. There we go. See? Seek and you shall find. This is one of the great things about having these sorts of live streams and chats. We've got people in the chat with an incredible wealth of knowledge. So much combined knowledge for all the people that are watching. You know what I'm doing? I'm putting new caps on this. I'm not putting the customers' ones on. They just came out too brown for me. I wasn't happy. Okay, let's get 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't take out too many caps at any given time because anyone who is a regular watcher knows that if I take too many caps out of the case at one time and I put them around here, they get stolen by capacitor fairies. The capacitor fairies steal them while I'm not looking, and then the capacitors disappear off the table, never to be seen again. So I don't want to tempt them by having too many capacitors on the table. I just have a few. Right, let's just plonk this on, positive around that way, like that. And we'll have the positive. Come on, like that. And you see the way the pins on these, on the side there, they're wider than the pads. This is why we go to all that trouble with the UV mask. And of course I could just use surface mount electrolytics, but generally everyone wants tantalums to go on there instead of surface mount electrolytics so that they don't have to worry about leakage in the future. We know that tantalums are incredibly reliable. Tantalums do have some issues associated with them, but as long as they are used within their spec, they are incredibly reliable. Tantalum itself is actually a relatively rare mineral, and it's one of the reasons why tantalums do sometimes go up in price quite a bit. I assume that's at times when tantalum is a little bit harder to get hold of. It's about as apparently there's around about the same amount of tantalum as there is uranium on the planet. To give you an idea of its level of rarity. Tantalum has an incredibly high melting point. It's one of the highest up there. It's like in the thousands of degrees. Can anyone here tell me which metal has the highest melting point? There's one that comes up in trivia all the time. I know what it is. See if someone else knows what it is. Getting about 1 frame per second. I'm pretty sure I'm not having any issues at this end. I'm about 46% CPU. I have got 0 drop frames, so it could be that old YouTube. Tungsten, well done, Joe. See, Joe has all the answers. For those who may not be aware, tungsten is generally the metal often used for incandescent light globe filaments. And it's that incredibly high melting point that allows those filaments to be glowing bright red like that for the entire lifespan of the globe. But of course these days we're all using like LED globes, aren't we? Either fluorescent or LED globes. Not many people buying incandescent anymore, even though they're very cheap. So there you go. Everyone's now armed with when they're doing doing some trivia sometime. When someone asks which metal has the highest melting point, you'll now know it's tungsten. There we go. Whoopsie. Got my watch caught on one of those little hooky outy things on the board. You know the hooky outy things. Working our way along. Once you get all of this prep stuff, hello Steve, welcome back. Once you get all this prep stuff done, the actual recapping side of it is so quick. But there was just so much UV mask that I had to put down that just took so long. So much trouble. Get some splooge on there. Gonna grab 3 more caps. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Making sure we have the stripe on the positive side. These all face positive to the right. All 3 of them. Whenever I'm doing these ones here that are in close proximity, or they have some sort of, they're in a line or they're in a little box or something like that, the way they're laid out on the board, always try my absolute hardest to make sure that they're all lined up and straight. Because I'll tell you what, when you recap these boards, if you've got one cap that's just sitting a little bit crooked or not quite in line with the other 2, it really sticks out. I think I might need to turn up the fume extractor a little bit. Because to be honest with you, it feels like it's doing nothing. There we go. Lots of UV masks. Yes, I saw you UVing yesterday, and I was saying, Steve, earlier that with a board like this, if I was actually doing this not on live stream, I would just put all the UV mask on, and then I would just sit the board out in the sun, and then come back and work on it later on. But of course, we want to keep the stream alive. Okay, good. Because I do one side of the caps and then I do another side of the caps, I often I have to go back and check to make sure that I don't accidentally miss one of the sides. You don't want that. This board's going to need such good ultrasonic clean. It's interesting, the owner of this board said they did a lot of cleaning on this board, and it's very apparent to me that they've cleaned like with a toothbrush or something like that, because it just has not got into all the nooks and crannies. And that's why I use an ultrasonic cleaner. I have 2 ultrasonic cleaners here. For the regular viewers, you'll know, because there's always been lots of drama with my ultrasonic cleaners. But I have a little guy over here, which I'll use for cleaning this board. It's one that, this is about the biggest board I can put in there, but it's good for, you know, all the smaller ones, Classic 2, SE, SE30, you know, all of those smaller boards. Once they start to get bigger, like the Mac 2s, 2CI, 2CX, 2VI, 2FX, 2X, whatever, they then go into this big one behind me. And this is the one that I made myself, that I've been promising everyone I would do a video of at some stage, and I haven't, and I'm sorry. And it's probably because I spend way too much time repairing things and not enough time producing pre-recorded YouTube content. It is something I am trying to remedy. I've got so much content to do, and I just dropped my tweezers. It's a good thing I have 5 pairs. Bing, bing. Because I dropped them. And I had all these people that were like, "Oh, you built your own ultrasonic. I want to do the same." I was like, "No worries. I'm going to make a video, and then you can make your own as well." And that was like 6 months ago. I haven't done the bloody video. I feel sorry for those folks. Sorry, folks. But on the bright side, the ultrasonic cleaner is now working brilliantly. The one that I built, that is. I've got a little timer on the front now, so that I can just drop things in and turn the timer on, and then walk away and come back, and it's finished. It's cool. I feel very, 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 very proud. Speaking of tweezers, the new ones arrived today. They are nice. You're going to want to order some. Okay. Right. All right. These are the ones that you found with the little grip on them. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be buying next time. Is it? Is it? It's great, actually. There is so much stuff that I've bought that Jay has bought first. He tries stuff out for me. And then he goes, "Oh, this is really good." I go, "Oh, sweet, I'll buy that." Dear. Jay loves buying things on Amazon. If you are, of course, wanting to do this sort of stuff, you know, we have the obvious things that you need to buy. You have to buy a soldering iron, you know, and that. But there are a few less obvious things that I highly recommend people get hold of. I do think a fume extractor is important. You don't necessarily have to go with the greatest. Any form of fume extractor is better than no form of fume extractor. But you see all this smoke rising up at the moment. Now that's not lead smoke, it's not lead fumes, but it is the fumes of the rosin core, or rosin, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Rosin. Well, I'm Dr. Rosin. That core, it's when it melts, it smokes, and that stuff gets into your lungs, and it really is not meant to be there. So you want to have good fume extraction when you're doing soldering. You obviously need good flux, you need good quality solder. If you're wanting to remove larger components, you need to have a hot air station. It is a hobby that really just It can just be, I'm not talking to you, Siri. It can just be as, you know, as big or as small as you want. I have reached a point in my life where I kind of know where I want to spend the money on things. So, for example, I've spent money on a pretty decent soldering station, and that's paid me back tenfold. Having a cheaper one before, this one is way better. I have generally used cheap multimeters in the past, and I had problems with them. I bought an expensive multimeter, a Fluke, and it has been excellent. So I really don't regret spending that extra money on that. The microscope was one of the biggest purchases in here, especially seeing as I had to get it shipped from the States. I mean, even just the shipping was hundreds of dollars. And I absolutely don't regret spending that money on the microscope. It's been absolutely fantastic. Oh, thank you, Jay, for reminding people of my website. I do appreciate that. You know why it took me almost 4 years for that bloody clone video. It's still no excuse not to make the second part. Oh, what the second part? It tells you this without turning on his own fume extractor. It's on. It's just not. It's a bit quiet. So yeah, you fume extractor. Then you got a desoldering station. You know, the solder sucker if you want to remove a lot of through-hole components. You can just keep buying stuff with this. And then you've got things like, you know, oscilloscopes if you want to get further into testing. ESD meters for testing capacitors in circuit. It's never ending, really. You can just go as far as you want into the hobby. It's just a question of how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go. All right, so now we need axial capacitors. I have a container with nothing but axial capacitors in it, and I need to find it. That's not the one. That's not the one. That's not the one. Not the one. Where the hell are the axials? Can anyone tell me? Cripes. I can't find my axial caps. Maybe they're up in the house. Oh, there they are. Far out. Scared myself there. I was like, God, where have all my axials gone? Gotta have them. Ooh, okay, so I'm gonna drop my axial caps. Oh, far out. What a mess. Oh, what a mess. What a mess. Right, let's jump to this top view. And here's my recapped board. You can see there's all the new caps on there, all looking nice and cappy. And then I'm going to get my axials from the floor, which I've dropped. And so we need 220 microfarad 16. I'm going to replace it with a 220 microfarad 25. A little bit higher voltage. Capacitor, you can use the same capacitance and you can go up in voltage. Don't change capacitance, don't go down in voltage. 470 16, I'm going to get a 470 25. There we go. Now, this is the first time I can get to use this thing. This is a thing I 3D printed, and it is for bending the leads on these, and I've got these all set up for the sizes of the holes on these boards. So this biggest one here is for this one. So I'm just going to put this on there. I'll straighten out these pins first a bit. Straight. Start off with straight pins. Work with straight first, straight. Then I'm going to put this way so that I can see the measurements of the cap. And then I'm just going to bend that down. And I'm going to bend that down. Just like that. And now, when I put this in here, well, first of all, I'll make sure I've got it the right way around. Yes, I have. I'll put that through there. I know that those bends are in the perfect position for that cap. Isn't that cool? I mean, it's not like I invented this. I mean, there are heaps and heaps of whatever they call them, lead benders, lead formers. I don't know. They have a name. But this one I made, and I made specifically for Macs. And if anyone wants the STL file, I will share it eventually. I'm a little bit slow on getting my STL files up onto what I like to refer to as Thingiverse, even though I am regularly told by Dana it should be pronounced Thingiverse. Thingiverse, not Thingiverse. But I like Thingiverse. I like the idea that it's full of thingies. Right, so there is one axial cap. And then here's the other one. And this one is... which size? Not that size. Next size up. It's this one. And we are plus on the left there. Again, let's get these straight to start off with. And we'll pop that in there. Oh, it doesn't friggin' fit. Or is it that one? Please be that one, because if it's this one, it doesn't fit. And then my invention is a disaster. I'll have to go in and make another version of this. Look, it is a disaster. My invention is a disaster. Can't jam this in. I'll probably break it. Wow. Wow, well, well. Disaster. Still made it work, but I'm going to have to go in and redesign it now. It's not even right. Very upset. Very, very upset. Thingiverse. Thingiverse. If anyone doesn't know what Thingiverse is, it's a place where there's a whole bunch of shared 3D things. So people have made their own designs of things. They might be, I don't know, attachments for things or replacements for broken components and stuff like that. And then they just share them. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful sense of community. This is the last cap, by the way, so we're getting ready to test. So everyone's feeling that excitement. That excitement that we're going to get when we're about to test. It's, as I've said before, I liken it to the same excitement you feel if you're counting from 1 million to 1, counting down from 1 million to 1. It's the excitement you feel at around about 10,000. Right, okay. Let's get some components onto this. I'm just going to check just quickly that I've got these all around the right way. Yes. 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 Yes, yes, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Now, if this doesn't work, the very next thing I'm going to do with it, I won't do this on live stream, but the very next thing I'll do with it, if it doesn't work, is ultrasonically clean it. There is a lot of gunk on here, and I want that gunk gone. And then if it still doesn't work after ultrasonic cleaning, then we'll start having to look into further diagnostics, again looking over it with a fine-tooth comb, checking to see if there are any damaged traces, looking to see if there are any soldables tucked in someplace they're not meant to be. What is going on there? Sorry, I just want to have a look at this under the microscope. This happens sometimes. Microscope big. So, when you're working with these PLCC chips, which are these ones, oh my God, get out of the way, thing you. These chips here, these ones, PLCC chips. See that? Got these solder balls here. I really do not like the look of what's going on here. This chip looks like it might have been moved by accident or something. I might just whip this chip off quickly and resoldering. But yeah, what I will then generally do with these boards, if they're still not working, is I'll have a look at things from the side like this. Look at all these chips, all these PLCC chips. From the side, on the side. I've often found things by looking on the side. Oh, look at that! You cannot tell me that's not going to cause a problem. Look at that. So, if I get my multimeter out and I check continuity between those two pins there, I'm going to guess that we'll get a beepity beep beep. So let's get that one there and that one there. Yep. Yep, indeed. The size of that solder ball, folks. Look at the size of it. That could well be the problem. Okay, no continuity there anymore. So I think I owe it to my viewers and to the owner of this board to check the rest of these chips. Yeah, sorry Jay, I didn't mean to trigger you with that. For anyone who doesn't know the story, Jay had a crack at soldering a vintage board. For those who aren't aware, Jay is an incredible solderer. He has fantastic soldering skills, and it was like, yeah, he's seen me do the soldering before, and although he wasn't able to test what he was doing, it's like, yeah, I've certainly got the capability of doing it, so of course, yeah, I'll do it, take it on, no worries. Did a board, sent it back to the customer, recapped, looking beautiful, and the board didn't work. And so anyhow, we managed to sort something out here, got the board sent here to me in Oz. I can't remember what the shipping cost, but I don't think it was too bad for that one from memory. And then, yeah, see, I don't like the look of what's going on in here as well. There's all sorts of gunge under here, which may well stop it from working. So anyhow, the board came out here, and the first thing I did is I grabbed the board and I did what I'm doing now, bit of an inspection, and found a great big fat solder ball tucked in between two pins. And it provided a very entertaining live stream, I must say. But I have to say, I did feel quite a bit of sympathy for Jay under those circumstances. But anyhow, that's why he said triggered. Right. Now, I might just test it, because I don't think we're actually making contact here. Oh, let's get rid of that little guy. Oh, my tweezers don't meet in the middle. What the hell? The hell, man? Game over, man. Game over. Alright, let's test it now. I'm feeling a little bit more confident after finding that solder ball. Right, we're going to have to put some things back in here. I generally hate taking the ROM and RAM sims out of these because they have the little plastic clips here. Justin, hello, welcome to the stream. You've arrived just in time for us to do some testing. I've got a Macintosh SE 30 here. Just pop the ROM sim in there. We're going to load it up with a bit of RAM. Should I stick 4 in or should I stick all 8 in? Let's stick all 8 in, shall we? 1, 2, 3. Well, gosh. This is all the same RAM. How cool is that? Don't see that very often. You don't usually see 8 all the same. Certainly don't in any of my Macs. Yeah. Right. We've got RAM, we've got ROM, we've got theoretically all we need to get going. Got all these caps in. We found a great big dirty solder ball in there that was making a short where we didn't want one. And then I'm not going to put the battery in yet because it's not needed to test. And then we just need an SE30. And I am going to put the board all the way in because I want to plug the sound in. I want to hear if the sound works. I need to sleep. See you all next time. No worries. Thank you, Jay. Thank you very much for joining. You sure you didn't want to stick around for the test? I'm about to do it. Just about to. Just about to test it. You don't want to miss the test, do you? Don't want to miss the test. Come on. You sat around all this time, watch me working on the thing. You've got to stay around for the test. Surely. Surely. Where's the speaker cable? Seriously though, where's the speaker cable? Oh, there it is. And this board has been pulled apart at some stage and the speaker cable's not where it should be. But still, okay, we'll still make it work. Wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. Right, connect it up to some power. And let's drop that board in. Let's flip him up. Let's connect up some... I'm being very optimistic here. I'm actually connecting up the floppy drive. And I'm connecting up the SCSI as well. Get in there, you thing, you. Okay. Peer pressure, come on, Jay. Right, let's see what happens. So, we're all connected up with the hard drive, connected up with the floppy drive, connected up with that umbilical cord to the analog board. We have all the caps in place, etc, etc, etc. Let's see what happens. Will we get a chime? If we don't get a chime, I'm not going to keep working on it today. I need to go and get some lunch. But I may do it in a later stream, or I might just work on it and just keep you posted on my Facebook page. So, we ready? 3, 2, 1. No sound. So, next thing to do with this one, we'll be dropping into the ultrasonic cleaner, and I'm going to have a look around some of those other chips that had all of those kludginess around the edges, which didn't look too crash hot. And then we'll try it again. Feeling pretty confident about this one, I have to say. I'm pretty sure that I will get it working without too much more effort. But unfortunately, I do apologise that I didn't get it finished today, but them's the breaks sometimes. As I said, about a 45% chance I thought before. I probably pushed it up to around about 60% when I found that solder ball. But there's still plenty of things that could be wrong with it. So, so sorry about that, folks. Sorry we're not fixing it. Just turn the brightness down on this thing, eh? We don't really need that sort of massive glowage. So good night, little SE30. The SE30 that could. And is the video ROM in the proper orientation? Oh, come on, don't ask me that. I have to take it out again. Far out. Gosh, I don't know. Alright, last thing I'll do before I finish the stream is just check that. It's the last thing I do, Steve. It's the last. Nothing more. Nah. So I'm hungry. That's the face I make. Oh. Hello, Moazam, Raja. Thank you very much for that. And I'm glad you enjoyed the floppy repair video. Fantastic. That's great to hear that it helped. That's what I'm always trying to do with these videos. I am trying to pass on some knowledge to help people. So that's fantastic that you found that one useful. Great to hear, and thank you very much for the super chat. Much appreciated. Right, now, so what are we're looking at the video ROM. That's this guy over here, isn't it? Yep, there it is. Let's grab my board over here. We'll check and see that it's orientationized correctly. Yes, it is. Orientationized well. Let's just check these little guys here. Yes. Yes, so that's 5455. Got to put my glasses on here. 5455. 46. 47. She uses the same chips as mine. So, Still plenty to do on this one. As I say, I'm thinking there's a fairly good chance that even just an ultrasonic clean will fix this up, but it will at the very least take away a lot of the gunge away, and then that'll allow me to get a better look at some of these chips. It's like this one here, top view, top view, top view. This one here, top view. This one here, for example, I'm not really happy with the way that one's on there. That's the SCSI chip there. And of course, we had all of that gunge along these ones here. So ultrasonic clean next, get this looking spotless. Then we'll test it again, and then if it's still not working, then I go in and start doing some testing with the multimeter around these here. Inspect the sides of these chips here to see if we've got, you know, any more little solder balls tucked away, any little surprises. And of course, there is always that possibility that that solder ball that was in there fried something, because, you know, if you have a short, some shorts will actually kill components as well. So we could well have fried something in that process. So anyhow, thank you very much, guys, for joining me today. What are we sitting at? We're sitting at about 45 viewers. It seems such a shame to finish a live stream with 45 people watching, but as I say, I'm hungry. Thank you for joining. Thank you for keeping me company. To all of you people that are watching, thank you for watching. If you're new to the stream, thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And also, of course, please smash that like button. Yeah, okay, I think that's it for me. So I'm going to press the end stream button and then have that awkward pause while I wait for it to come up and say, are you sure you wish to end the stream? And I say, yes, I do. So thanks again, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye.